So it's time finally for questions and answers and comments, and I really invite people who also have real experience to share. So you might want to answer a question or whatever.
Under pre-circles for the voluntary participation, would that be, for example, if in this Christiane's pre-circle, or if I come to know a circle is going to happen, I can myself, out of care or curiosity, volunteer to be there and participate, even though I'm not related, I wouldn't be named.
Should I answer? I'm hoping everyone from the team is going to answer. So, yes, anyone can name themselves to a circle. So if you hear that it's happening through the grapevine, or maybe one day it'll be on a public website, but anyway, if you hear that a circle is happening and you feel like you would like to be there and you don't need a great justification other than your heart says, I want to be there, you can contact the facilitator and say, I heard that this circle is happening and I'd like a pre-circle. And so you're fully entitled to be there.
Just to bounce on these questions, is there any advertisement which is made before Restorative Circle starts? In the news and note, I don't know what?
No, at the moment not. But so in the back there we have a little pamphlet on our system, and what that means is our particular agreements for the moment of how circles work in Oroville. So for the moment it is not publicized, and maybe one day we would get enough feedback that it should be. Before it's actually happened, it should be somewhere public so that people like Josephine says can invite themselves. For the moment it's not.
Laura? Do you have any people who are like holding the space or who are participating in, as a silent observer?
There are no silent observers in restorative circles. Because if you're there, you are impacted. You can choose to not speak. And we have had a circle where someone was very clear that I will come, but I will not speak, and that's fine. But they don't have the official label as silent observer. Either you are named or you've named yourself. In its nature, it's a transparent process. So there's nothing to hide. Oh. Sorry, did I miss this? Did you ask how many people hold the space? Oh, sorry. So we are always at least 2 co-facilitators, and several times we are the 5 of us, and we're hoping for more facilitators to join our team. So, for example, we had 2 circles which were about in the 50s that were named, and then we had all 5 of us present and all 5 of us pre-circling people. If you ask a question and I've zapped a piece, please say it again, yeah?
Yeah, I wanted to thank you. I do resonate very much with a restorative circle and trust that it brings the better out of whatever conflict problem can happen. But unfortunately, my experience in the last 3 years, 3 times I've been asking for a restorative circle and the people I wanted to participate refused to come. So I felt extremely frustrated about that, and I feel the conflict hasn't been resolved or concluded on my side because there was no response on the other side. How can I deal with that?
So I'm wanting to hear some of your meaning first before I respond. From what I'm hearing, Sophie, is that what you experienced somehow is still alive for you and unresolved. And you would have really liked to have experienced a different response and a different holding in the community, something that felt holistic and where there's actually an outcome that you can live with. Is that it?
I mean, I wish that the fact that the other parties, the people I'd invited, refused to even consider a pre-circles, make me feel like it was really worthless, it was not important for them. Well, it's very alive in me.
So you'd like to experience that when something is alive, that it's held as serious by others and others who are especially directly involved.
Yeah, because as you mentioned, it's completely, the person can choose to participate or not. But when a person chooses not to participate, it's extremely frustrated for the person who wants to initiate the circle. So is there any solution, any way to move forward on that?
I'm chuckling inside, join guest house, join guest house. So, yeah, I remember that you tried to initiate a circle a couple of times, and actually even Shanti initiated a circle, and I don't remember if you got to hear about that, and it didn't go forward.
I heard about it, and again, nothing happened after that.
So this is, you know, when I was saying in my very nervous introduction that we see this actually as that we have a 10 to 15 year implementation phase. And even though we've been working at it for 2 years or 7 years, whichever way you want to see it, and we've gotten far, it's still only baby steps in terms of the real big picture. And I would say the biggest challenge that we're faced with right now is people not wanting to come. And so it's a voluntary process, but it requires willingness for us to meet. Otherwise, who the hell are we going to speak to? And one thing that in the last 2 years, we have kind of left out a very small but maybe crucial piece in the process, which is called substitution. Over here. Where actually, if somebody says that they don't want to come, another skilled facilitator can substitute the role. So obviously, they're not the person, but the role. And now if everybody doesn't want to come, I mean, we can't have everybody substituted. And that's just something that I think for the moment we have to live with. And that's part of our journey to really educate and to shift our culture in Orville about how we hold conflict and justice and really sitting down and hearing each other. Have I answered your question, Sophie?
In some way, yeah, it's still baby steps, so there is no clear answer at the moment with the capacity.
We can't force. You know, what's funny, I mean, when we put out this justice questionnaire, I'm guessing that many of you saw it, and we're now writing a report which we will publish. You know, many of the feedbacks were about, and I think we all know this, that we don't have any way to enforce or any way to implement. And so how can you make someone go for a circle? Because even if we could, well, they might not come anyway, and then what are we going to do? Or they come and they be so grumpy and they're not there with willingness.
But could you suggest like something else? Okay, I wanted to initiate a circle, the other party didn't want to come. Like, would it be possible that we meet, like the facilitators and the RC facilitators and me, and try to see if there would be another way to conclude, you know, to come to a conclusion? Because I felt, okay, it's not working. Bye.
So, yeah, right. You would have liked to have been held by someone at least, or some process, or...
Yeah, there is a continuity because it's just dropped out. So the idea of substitution, for example, would be a good thing to explore, I think.
I appreciate that feedback, Sophie, and I think it is a good idea that when a circle doesn't go ahead, we sit with at least the initiator and see what other options are there. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
I want to share my experience with the RC, because I didn't apply for RC. Actually, I am staying in Pump House resident. That conflict thing, I didn't apply for RC because I don't know RC. But other party was applied for RC. So actually, I'm so happy the RC Aurovilian who's taken up this circle. They came to our house and meet individually, because other group we went Kudam and council and that, but they didn't come for in the where we are staying. But the RC came and see our situation. So from that we feel very okay, this is a very trust to openness to share our thing and that. So when we went to RC, then first pre-circle completed, then we had a big circle, and they invited so many people. From our side, I think only 1 or 2 only, because we were standing okay, this is, we stand for the truth, so we didn't make any mistake. So why we should go for RC? We were ignored first. We don't want to meet because already we are tired. We don't want, because we are standing for the truth. We don't want to go. If you make mistake, you go for RC. Then later on, okay, this is Auroville process, and I happy they send their overview of RC process thing also. I was reading through, so I was convinced. Our neighbor also, please come, and that we make time and thing, and so we went. So we 84 people or something. So we were first we were struggle with our language, and that also emotion time we don't understand. And
Grace, can I try to reflect what I hear so far?
yes,
Yes, because I hear that you were touched by RC people coming to your house, and you started to have trust
yes,
that somebody is concerned about you and your issue.
yes,
And then you were not actually initiating the circle, but other people started the circle and you were invited to it.
correct.
And then you came with some trust for this process.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was emotion time. We cannot talk also, only crying. Then later on, no, so until you understand with a simple English, they make us to understand until because some of the all that foreign kids and that, and they speak very highly English word, and also faster, and we cannot follow easily, and that.
So I know you're saying the language is a big difficulty from your side, but the circle held the space for understanding. Is that right? That we made the English simple?
Yes.
So that you could understand. And I'm sure, I don't remember, but I know Laura understands very well Tamil, so I know some interaction was also in Tamil then, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
And from that beginning, the process was mistake, initial stage. So later on, after RC, we were learned so many things, the process, also the planning, galaxy, so many things we learned through that only. Otherwise, even the process mistake, only we stand that process mistake. That's all we were stand.
So
but
can I check?
Yes.
That many things came up to be understood by you because the circle process was happening.
Yes.
Yes.
So each before meeting, I was we all 7 members in the community prepare what is next. We should put it the question. So for that we prepare Auroville plan and everything, and so many we learn
Grace,
from that.
I'm just wondering if you have a question for us now.
Yes, and on the end, it was action agreement. It happened, and also from beginning, the working group didn't come. Only council 1 member came, and other one came later, and other working group didn't come because that's the working group made
Grace,
mistake.
I'm going to interrupt you again just for time. What's the question?
Because
I'm hearing that there's a challenge that people didn't come, and I agree, and that's really our next focus on this journey, this project. Do you have a question to ask right now about the process?
Because I want this process to be addressed by community. Also, the working group have no time to listen both sides. So they have lots of issues in their desk. So they are also busy. They are hurry up to close that within 2 years.
So are you
or
wishing
something.
that there was more understanding of RC and more willingness to come?
Yes,
or commitment to come, and from working groups as well?
Come and to whatever the conclusion comes, the working group should be agree.
Yeah.
Cannot be say you went RC is not process
You'd
for
like it to be taken seriously by working
seriously.
groups.
Yes, that one to be addressed, and also to be. I feel the RC process should be RA ratification or something to be strongly to be say, because this is that one giving more time, because we were 3 months running and giving whole day spending RC process, and the end nothing. Then again from the
Grace,
beginning it's starting. It's
I'd
very
like
painful.
to clarify something about this particular RC. That one of the biggest challenges we have, as you said, was that people were not present, or that people dropped out because we had several meetings. And I firmly believe that if we have an authentic RC, if people are actually there, that when we come to an action plan, that it comes actually from such an honest, deep place that it doesn't need to be ratified, and that working groups will accept it because they will have been involved. And it's unfortunate that your circle happened at a time when it's still very much new and not really trusted, and trusted for valid reasons. Yeah, it's not a criticism that it's still being questioned. It's going to take years before we really understand it. So it's unfortunate that your circle happened at this time when it's not really understood. And to clarify, we never really had a solid action plan. So there wasn't really much for the working groups to agree on or not agree on. And sure, we can go into other criticism, but I don't know. Yeah, it means
incompleted, no?
Yes.
It means
so you would have liked something deeper and more thorough.
Yes.
Me too.
So can I again to come to RC for this thing?
Yes. You can always initiate a new RC. And is it okay, Grace, if we go on to other questions?
Yeah, thank you.
Martin, and then Sandira. And Lorraine. Okay.
Happening, really. I'm very, very thrilled that this is going on, but my health is pretty poor, and I just can't handle physically more.
Thank you for coming, Lorraine.
Yeah.
Take care. Martin.
Yeah. I'd like to actually, the question I wanted to ask is directly related to what Grace has just said, so I'm very happy that Grace has just said what she has. I'm questioning a little bit, actually what part of the interaction between, with Christian, because, and it was interesting because when Christian said, "Oh, should we involve the farm group?" You said, "Oh, no, it's not the farm group, we name an individual." And then, "Oh, it's PTDC, but it has to be an individual." My experience of working groups is that, at least the Orville Council, and I can speak for the Orville Council because I've been a member for a year now, is that we work very much as a team. We don't we have our individual opinions, of course we do. We have our individual perceptions of issues, but we try to work very much as a team. And if somebody comes to us and says, "Can you represent the council as an individual?" Well, what do you want? Do you want me to talk as an individual, or do I come as part of the council? And there's a subtle difference in that. So my question is really, is there a way that you could approach the working group? I know that would involve gaining much more confidence in the with the working groups themselves, which I know that you're trying to do with the council. But is there a way that you could approach a working group as a body instead of approaching or perhaps as well as, but perhaps instead of approaching the individual? I believe that would be more effective.
first want to clarify that when Christian said the farm group, I don't think I said, oh, no. And I don't think I did, oh, no. I think I clarified that in RC, we come as individuals, but absolutely we represent the groups and whatever other stuff has going on for me. I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm an Orvillian, I'm white, I'm part of the working committee. Yeah, that's all reality, but that we don't name a group. And this is the RC process. We could have so many other processes in Orville, but we are going to respect RC as RC. Because really, ultimately, we are individuals, and it doesn't mean that you can't speak for the group. Yeah, you say what you think you need to say, either as an individual or the group's concerns. But I'm going to say who needs to be there. And this is because it really is about bringing back the power to the collective. And not to me, if I'm going to contact the groups, and not to the groups about deciding who should be the representative. He called the circle, and it's up to his intuition and intelligence in the moment to name. And you might be named, and you might say, no, I don't want to be there. But you might go back and tell your group, whoa, there's a circle, and I think someone should go. Who's going to go? And Sandira might say, I'll go, in which case she'll contact me and say, I'm coming. And then I'll say, what brings you to the circle? Well, I'm coming because I'm on the council. That's fine. I'm not going to say you can't come because you're on the council. So I actually don't think that what the process offers and what you want are contradictory, but maybe just the route is different. Have I kind of answered your question?
I think you've kind of answered, but I think you've also said, from what I hear you saying, is that this isn't part of the circle, therefore we won't do it. This isn't part of the process that we hold, therefore that we won't do it. I'm just asking, is it worth trying?
Yeah. So I'm getting that you would like some flexibility and willingness to hear feedback and integrate and see whether we've missed something.
Sure.
So thank you for sharing it.
Thank you.
I would like to
you.
consider it more. And I think we haven't understood really the power and potential of this, and that there's a lot of wisdom.
I agree.
Yeah. Thank
Very
you.
much. Thank you.
So my point goes in the same direction. I definitely experienced it as a person who felt a bit splitted to be there as an individual, but still asked to be involved in an action plan. And I could see an action emerging, but in a way I then needed to refer it back to the council where I'm with Martin. So, and where it didn't felt into resonance, so I felt somehow a bit twisted in my own accountability. So I felt it rather difficult to hold this individual aspect and my working committee aspect. And I'm still a bit puzzled how to hold this in sincerity and accountability.
Thank you. I think we have so much more to learn as a collective, and what processes we want to develop for Orville and how we want to have group mandates and all of this so that it really reflects what our values are. And I guess I don't want to see it as that there's a fault in RC or there's a fault in the working groups and the way they do things, but really as a collective, we just have to keep on going forward. And to figure it out.
I definitely will try it again.
It's like we have the reverse with Joy Guesthouse. It's been in a couple of different working groups, and there's a request, can we all meet or can I come to your table? And I've yet never been to the FAMC's table, for example, and this topic has been on their table for a few months. And the way I see it, I'm actually the biggest impacted, you know. So it's two ways, but okay, what are we going to do as a collective? How are we going to try to sort this out and create more togetherness? And maybe then the whole working group should be named. I don't know.
What came up for me is that it shouldn't just be one person from a working group coming, because if 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 of the people from that group were there, you would all have an experience to take back then to your meeting. And it wouldn't rest on some one person's experience and her trying to understand what to take back to the group.
I think if the dialogue was deep enough and we actually knew how to do RC well enough, that even if only you came, the outcome could not be something that the council wouldn't say, wow, that's so awesome, we are so relieved how creative you got. I can't believe that action plan items would be things that are debatable by people who weren't there. But we have a long way to go before we actually can have that much transformation in a circle. And maybe I'm an idealist, but yes, with a lot of commitment to keep on going.
I definitely wish that it has more resonance in the working groups and that we come in a larger number, so to be more in our stand. Thank you.
I also, it's me? Okay. I also want to add to Martin, the case of Christian is quite good for this example, because before going to the circle, this problem, let's say, do we have the processes to solve those problems before? Yeah. What are our processes to solve our problems before they are becoming a conflict? Do we have this in place? I'm not sure. I think so, but this would be the first choice. Yeah, to address. I just take your example. Yeah, to address to the farm group or to Foodling or to whatever. So this is not this is not your problem. I was just thinking, do we have other processes in place which are able to solve our problems before calling the RC? And the second thing, also to adding what you were saying, Martin. I'm a lawyer, so I was watching this dialogue very carefully, which you had with Christian, and it's a little bit the same. How could you make sure, you as a group or group members, to have the professional distance to the case, especially in a village where we know each other or we are related or whatsoever? I just take this example now, it's not blaming you, but I also had the impression that you had an opinion to this, and maybe we were agreeing to Christian, which is okay for yourself, but in a conversation like this, I think the first thing is to find out the facts, what happened, and then to, of course, look to the emotional side of this thing, and then you sit with all the others. So are you aware of the? I think you're aware, but how do you deal with this, or have you training, or is it the same as a therapist? Yeah, you need this professional distance to solve those conflicts.
Thank you. So I fully agree with you in terms of holding space that is not taking sides. And I hear your feedback that to you it sounded like I was on his side or agreeing. I wasn't.
No, it's just,
so
I thought it's a good example, because then we can talk about this.
And I think maybe if you had seen me then pre-circling Anandi or pre-circling Sumati or pre-circling, that I would listen in the same way. But your feedback is valid. I didn't experience it that way. I thought I was just listening. And when you say a professional distance, so in many ways we think that people with conflict resolution should be impartial, and actually the way we see it in RC is that we are omnipartial. I am a human being, and I'm going to have thoughts about what he says, or about my dinner, or about my partner, or about while I'm listening. So it's not about not being a human being, but do I have discernment And am I able to keep my stuff with me and be there as a listener? And yes, there's a lot of training to becoming a facilitator, and maybe you'll join us. And then I wanted to say something else. Can you remind me your first point?
I just said, do we have, more addressing to Martin, do we have processes to before this, especially when it comes to this group things and not to the individual conflicts?
So I remember also you saying that it wasn't necessarily about us or our work, and I do want to respond, because for me an RC can be called at any point before a conflict happens or 9 months after a conflict happens, and it's not necessarily about conflict. Let's just see it as we're getting creative problem solving. If you call to an RC, it's not a bad thing. It's just coming together, and hopefully it'll be so normal that it will be like over dinner table and having just an authentic conversation. And yes, we need lots of ways to hear each other and sort our issues out.
I don't have a question. I hope it's okay. I just want to share an experience and a feedback on the points that Martin and Sandira brought up. In the work, in our part of the work that's happening, what we've recently experienced is that there are so what we've experienced throughout the years is that what you've said, restorative circles, is this, and we won't change it. It didn't work for us. What worked for us is to keep the essence and to play. So I just want to put that in the center, and I just want to give it to you, because as long as we held on to processes, it was very painful, and we experienced a lot of disconnect and judgment. So that's one thing. And connected to that, what has recently happened 3-4 times when we had this dilemma of there's a conflict between an individual and a working group, and we cannot bring the whole working group into the room, or they don't want to come. What we asked and encouraged is whether the individuals of the working group that want to engage and take responsibility can get an empowerment and a delegation from the working group and the trust saying, okay, you go, and we hand over the responsibility as a working group to you 2 or 3 or 1 that show up at that circle. And please let us know after, but we will not start picking whatever you're holding or deciding apart and say, oh, we don't agree, and why did I would have said this or that. And it's worked magically. So I just wanted to share that I think in Oroville, we need to, and with all these processes, we need to really become creative and look for solutions that are between the lines, and also really be very critical and have a lot of introspection on when we say collective, and for example, the working groups are not the collective. Oops. That's for me not possible as a statement. But how can we really give responsibility to the people who want to take it? And so I just wanted to share that there was a breakthrough somehow with this delegation of saying the working group takes that step and say, we trust you. You go over there and you make, and it was big decisions and heavy decisions, and it worked. So just as a sharing.
Thank you. I agree that working groups are not the collective. So if I said something that made you think that I see them as one, I apologize. Yeah, but if I said something that makes it sound like I see working groups equals the collective, I apologize. I didn't mean to say that. Okay.
I have a jumble mumble of words in my mind and emotions. I have been attending what's called the Restorative Circle Process Practice Group every Thursday for almost 2 years now, and I have learned a lot of things there. And one of them, that it's a very precise and concise system. Second is that it's welcoming. Third is that it allows the time, and especially allowing the time is in contrast to many other processes who do not have the time. It's really about connection, and when people have experienced what's called the magic of mutual understanding and self-responsibility, they are much more willing and to cooperate, to find the action agreement together. What I have also learned in these practice groups is that unless we have a new system, we fall back onto what already exists. And the working groups and the other systems, this is all more or less. Then delegating responsibility to others is what we are constantly falling back on. Whereas I'm all for allowing the space for the baby steps of the RC process to grow and to develop. There was something I heard that from Mita in the interviews, that it's systemic. Our problems are systemic, and the problem between the pump house and the youth hive, which are made out to be individual problems, actually they are systemic. The problem of Christian and the farm group and the organic, it's also systemic. Oroville being an ideal place, and we as individuals cannot really do more than connecting or untying the knots one by one. As Vikram says, this is what we can do. There is a huge systemic shift that needs to happen, and in order for that to happen, each one of us needs to make a quantum leap, and that's very scary. From having this idea that conflicts are bad, if you are in a conflict, it is bad. We are in Oroville for human unity and harmony. How can you be in conflict? That's the given thought or belief system. And then to say it's okay to be in conflict. To be in conflict is to be in community. Everybody who is impacted is a participant. Actually, this is a new trend of thought, and I'm all for exploring it.
Thank you, Rita. I hear you really want this to move into systemic solutions. We want to have maybe one more question or comment. Who? Rakhal.
Rita, you gave me a very nice introduction for what I have to say, I must say. I find, I should put the camera somewhere good, no? I find that this restorative circle, as well as Kudam, is a very precious gift for Oroville, very useful. And thank you to be there and to be so sticking to it so that it is happening. As a demonstration of what I said, I must say that I have been through one Kudam session and through one small restorative circle session, and the result was that we love each other afterward. So I proved that I am really in favor of it. Nevertheless, I have found myself wondering whether I would go for a mediation or restorative circle with a conflict with someone. And I looked at it for quite some time, and I said to myself, no, I don't want. I am well with that. I am well with the conflict or the disagreement. and I appreciated it. And I think it's related to what I feel is true, at least as I perceive it. And for me, truth comes before harmony. Because if we go for harmony, but the truth is not there, wow, terrible, terrible. No? So that's something that I would like to contribute, and I would like to ask you if it is not in contradiction to whatever has been shared in this room, not at all, because every case is particular. But I would like to know if you share this perspective, this point of view.
Well,
sometime.
I hear that truth is more foundational for you than going for like resolving a conflict. I would say that restorative circles is very much centered on truth. The truth of each person as they express it. Actually, Rita said something like this, that in the film, it's a space for truth. And that's my experience. The deeper truth comes out.
I like it. It's very juicy. And I would really agree. You know, coming back to Joy Guesthouse, yes, I've been asking for a process for 9 months. And then sometimes I'm desperate that it doesn't happen. But at the same time, it's so humbling. And I'm in a lot of conversation with Mother and like, okay, wow, this is really a divine gift and an opportunity for me to look at something. Am I really walking my talk? And what is the truth? And what is the bigger truth? The truth with the big T, you know? So absolutely. And it's just a service that we offer and a service that I am passionate about. But there's no judgment. If someone doesn't want to call a circle or doesn't want to come to a circle, there is validity in that.
No, but I'm going further. I'm saying that there is a virtue
yes.
in it. And I come back to what you said at the very beginning. You said conflict is normal. And as long as we are human, it is
yes.
normal, and it has to be done, and not to be rejected. So I feel as being part of something which is not only normal, but I feel indispensable, rather than to have no conflict, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
That seems to be a bit strange for me, and
I love
doubtful.
It. I love what you share. Thank you.
Thank you.
The magic that happens is when the truth is touched, and somehow to this truth people surrender. It works magic between the person who speaks the truth and hears and accepts the truth, even if it is not this person's point of view.
Okay, just one thing. We saw Patricia's hand, and I don't know, do you need to share it, Patricia, or shall we close?
It's along the lines of what is being said now.
Okay.
What I like about this, what I've heard this evening is that, okay, we grow with community and conflict, I think was on the golden quote. And so what you're offering, and also again to this comment of why stick with a particular process and not change, but in this process, we are helped to see ourselves, and that's leading us to what we are actually here in Oroville for. It's not about solving these problems, it's about uniting here. I congratulate you for all that you've done in these 7 years. Keep going.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Patricia. Would you please fill out your feedback forms just now and drop them in the basket on the way out. And thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Could we have a moment of silence to close? That would be so wonderful. And yeah, you make. So thank you everybody for coming. Thank you RC team. It was a wonderful late afternoon, early evening. So can I ask you to help a little bit with the chairs and cushions after filling out your form? That would be even more wonderful. So thanks everybody. Have a safe journey home and a nice weekend.